on his way. Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Motherfucker, he's on his...
Mountain Murders is an Appalachian true crime podcast. Listener discretion is advised. The show contains graphic language and depictions of violence. It may not be suitable for all audiences.
We say fuck a lot. Hey guys, welcome back to Mountain Murders.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
And I'm here with drug-crazed abandon.
Oh God.
No, but I have
That sounds pretty intense.
had a couple of edibles. So.
Oh, you gotta quit telling people that.
Why?
Because they're gonna think that you're some kind of edible head.
I am. Reefer Madness. Up in the Mountain Murders podcast.
Nice.
What you got going on, Dylan? Let's give a shout out to some of our patrons who so generously support the show.
Yes, we would like to give a shout. Today's episode is sponsored by April, Beth, and Candy.
Thank you.
Ding, 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 ding. That's the Patreon bell.
We love that.
Yeah, I know.
And 4th of July, we're already there. Everybody's patriotic. I've seen men in kind of like American flag Speedos running around and
A lot of traffic.
a lot of firecrackers.
A lot of people.
Yep.
So we hope everybody has a safe and happy 4th.
Don't blow your hand off with none of them tit whistlers or whatever they're called.
Not the tit whistler.
I was just thinking about Joe Dirt, and there's like all the weird fireworks.
My cousin lost a thumb fucking with those tit whistlers.
Gotta watch them tit whistlers.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
So, do you have anything special planned for today? This episode?
Nope.
Are there any sound effects or fireworks or
Nope.
special appearances? You think Uncle Sam might happen by?
Do you want Uncle Sam to visit?
Yeah, I do, because I want to say, how are you denying us national health care coverage but spending more on the wars? That don't add up.
Okay. Enough.
I want to ask Uncle Sam that directly.
Okay, enough. Let's, We're not here to talk politics, Dylan.
Surprise, we need coverage.
Like I said, we're not here to talk politics, Dylan. We're here to talk true crime.
And what true crime are we going to talk today?
Put on your true crime hat, Dylan. It is time. We are in the glow of summer right now, and June was Pride Month. So I've handpicked a case that I thought would be compelling for you Mountain Murders listeners.
Oh, my God.
And Dylan.
Ooh, I feel compelled already.
Do you? Are you riveted?
Is that what compelled feels like?
Yes.
Okay.
Julianne Marie Williams was born September 11th, 1971 in St. Cloud, Minnesota, the second daughter of Tom and Patsy Williams, and they would have a total of 4 children. Julie, as she was known, graduated from Cathedral High School in 1990. She excelled in academics, played basketball and tennis. As a matter of fact, she was a Minnesota State doubles champion in 1989.
Oh, so she's pretty damn good at it, right?
Pretty good at tennis, and began her activities in the issues of social justice. She graduated cum laude in 1994 with a degree in geology from Carleton College. It's in Northfield, Minnesota. And she continued as an active campus and community volunteer. People who knew her described her as like a one-person Peace Corps.
Oh, okay.
Carleton College geology professor Mary Savina described Julie as a catalyst for change. Whenever Julie had choices, she chose the path that valued people.
Oh, well, that sounds like she has really stand-up character.
She does, right?
Integrity.
Julie loved the outdoors. She was in the midst of a crisis after graduating from college, trying to navigate the future. She wanted to marry together her love of nature and geology, but also her concern for people's lives as she was establishing her career. She was hoping to find meaningful work, but science that didn't seem to directly help people was something that she didn't really want to be part of.
Oh, so she needed to have that goal of it improving someone's life or helping someone.
Yes.
Okay.
As part of her studies at Carleton, she had conducted research in multiple sites, including the Boundary Waters Canoe area. She also interned for the Keck Foundation in northern Wisconsin and for the Lake Champlain Basin Project in Burlington, Vermont, and conducted field research on the Olympic Peninsula in the state of Washington. So she's a driven student.
Yeah, it sounds like she's getting way more accomplished than I would have.
Oh, yeah? Well, she
Yeah.
was a driven student known for her meticulous detail. She shined when she was doing like hands-on field work. She spent 1993 in Greek Macedonia studying anthropology. And then after that, she traveled to Italy where she studied dinosaurs.
Damn.
I know, right? Like, what an exciting life. Professors and fellow students alike noted Julie's thirst for knowledge. A learner, she was always questioning everything, looking for answers.
Well, she sounds like she has a true passion for this, to be driven like that, you know, always busy, always moving on to the next opportunity. And I think that's really awesome to see someone with that kind of drive.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, just that thirst for knowledge. I find those people who want to continue being lifelong learners and they're always interested in learning something new and have that passion. I admire those people.
Yeah, definitely.
In 1995, she planned education programming for the Park Service at Big Bend National Park in Texas, and she received a grant to conduct hydrology research on Lake Champlain during the summer of 1996. Julie was described by those who knew her as an achiever. As I mentioned, she did tons of volunteer work, and one of the jobs she had was working at a women's shelter, and she did that same type of community service work on a trip to Colombia.
Oh, really?
Not only was Julie attempting to figure out which direction professionally to take in a tough economy, but she was learning how to be honest with the people she loved. Julie had struggled for some time with her sexuality. She had boyfriends throughout college, but kept finding herself being more attracted to women.
Well, and that's a time of life. I think a lot of people kind of figure out exactly what they maybe want out of life in college.
She once told her roommate about a guy she was dating, "I should just dump him because I would rather have a girlfriend." Julie needed to reconcile her sexuality. However, she'd grown up in a Christian home and felt conflicted. Julie had wanted to live someplace that she could be out, but she wasn't yet comfortable enough to tell her family. Vermont is known for its more progressive attitude, and Julie found herself living in the Green Mountain State. She got a place to live, a job at Walden Books, and was finally able to live her life out. However, Julie was still more of a private person. She had a circle of friends. Some people felt more comfortable for Julie to reveal her sexuality, while other relationships seemed more fragmented. Julie had always, like I said, been this private person, and many of her friends would later say that they felt they just got pieces of Julie, but never the whole person.
Well, and that's a very personal thing for someone to go through. And it's no one can say, hey, it should go exactly like this. I guess it's different for every person. And that's just a tough thing to kind of not really be able to be yourself and have to not lie to people, but kind of go along with what they expect out of you. I imagine that could be very tough.
Yeah, there has to be some serious internal conflict with that. Julie wore baggy clothes and unshaven legs. She's what I would call crunchy. She's like a Crunchy Grooves kind of gal.
Okay.
Which is cool. In Vermont, Julie's search for acceptance in her Christian faith was a big part of her life. She joined the Christ Church Presbyterian, which was a progressively minded congregation. They're a more liberal church. Williams, along with 3 other women, founded a group, and this is pretty cool, Dylan, where they examined how gays and lesbians could feel welcome in a religion that often excluded them.
Oh, well.
Julie often looked to a Bible verse in Jeremiah for, I guess, an affirmation. When she was struggling, she would recall this Bible verse. "For surely I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans for your welfare and not your harm, to give you a future with hope."
Oh, wow. I didn't know that was in the Bible.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. When's my life going to be like that?
Well, Julie attended a nonprofit retreat in Minnesota that promoted adventure and travel for women. Woods Women, as it was called, was a great place for a woman like Julie who loved the outdoors. It was on her first evening at Woods Woman that she got assigned to two tent mates, and one of them was a woman named Laura or Lollie Winans. Now, Julie and Lollie hit it off right away. They spent the entire first night together talking and laughing, and Julie would describe Lottie as an angel. Lollie hailed from Grosse Pointe, Michigan, from a very wealthy family. She was kind of a misfit in a rich world. She attended boarding school, then did a short stint at Sterling College in Craftsbury Common, Vermont. And Sterling offers challenge education. Are you familiar with that, Dylan?
Oh, I felt challenged the entire time I was being educated.
Well, challenge education is where students do work alongside their studies, such as shoveling manure, building barns, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And they also do a 5-day winter hike that tests survival skills.
Well, I think young people could gain a lot of good experiences and skills from a system like that, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. Classmates noted that on the winter hiking trip, Lollie was full of energy. When others seemed to be waning, she was catching her second wind, offering up comic relief. Everyone who knew Lollie called her a funny girl with a great sense of humor. On the outside, Lollie was jovial, but inside she battled demons. As a child, Lollie had repeatedly been sexually abused by a trusted adult. Her childhood trauma bled over, causing her to abuse alcohol. She had a meekness when it came to authority figures. Some of these issues resulted in Lollie dropping out of Sterling. So after quitting school, Lollie drifted from job to job, and at one point she became engaged to a man. Then she finally started therapy.
See, and that's one reason I think molestation should be right there beside murder and rape. And it's like they don't even treat rape like this either. That affects that person the rest of their life. Affects other relationships, what kind of job they can keep, who they can be around. I mean, it just, they're all
Well,
parts.
it like changes your entire brain's like wiring.
Yeah. And you don't just go, it doesn't really go away. It's just to what degree can you deal with it? You know what I mean?
No, it's
And that's just
absolutely true.
I think the penalties for that should fit the harm it does to the individual, which is significant. Rape and molestation. It should be like you do it one time, you go to jail for 25 years. You know what I'm saying?
Where is the lie? Don't
25
disagree.
to life for rape and molestation. I mean, shit. But these people get chance after chance after chance. Go. If they go to jail for 2 years, it's like somebody's surprised,
I feel like if I was in a church congregation right now, I'd be standing up going like, "Amen."
I'm sorry.
Right on, brother.
But you describing this poor woman, all these things that's affecting her life, that just really pisses me off.
Well, she did finally begin therapy, and by 1994, Lollie was finally ready to start kind of putting her life together. She enrolled at Unity College in Maine, where she would study an outdoor leadership type of program. She greeted the huge challenges of the program with enthusiasm. Her energy reserves were amazing out in the field. Lollie aspired to run outdoor trips for women who had also been victims of sexual abuse. Lollie had found solace in nature, and she really wanted other women to experience the same sense of peace for themselves.
Well, and I find that admirable, people who go through some of these devastating things, and they kind of focus all those feelings, that energies into something positive and help other people. I always think those people are heroes.
I think those programs are amazing, and I actually did like a semester of an outdoor leadership program, but did not finish it because that is the story of my life, is starting college programs and not finishing them. Yeah. But it was really interesting, and I do think there is so much to gain from experiential like learning and education, and also like wilderness therapy and being in the outdoors.
Well, I think naturally when you're out in the outdoors, it puts you in a certain state of mind. Maybe you're more receptive, or I don't know, you just feel good from being in nature, even if you don't want to admit it or notice it. So I think, and then easy opportunities for team building exercises or to help someone gain confidence.
Yeah, well, what's really interesting when you go on one of these outdoor trips with like a group and, you're often strangers and you don't know each other. And it's really interesting, I think, to see how different people react in that group setting. Like you have some people that are natural leaders and they automatically jump in, are really hands on, kind of take charge. You have others that you can see that are probably more of like the type B personality, maybe more of like the follower
And there's nothing
that
wrong
are
with it
like,
either,
okay,
though.
what do
Yeah.
we, you tell me
Right.
what I need to do and I'll do, so you're in charge, you tell me what to do. And then it's just fun to see everybody kind of come together and work together toward a common goal. It's a real like self-esteem booster.
Well, yeah, we're just, smart animals, and we fall in. There's be a little pecking order and kind of a hierarchy, even in, in good, being in good terms, nothing mean. But, like when I say pecking order, that sounds bad. But, everybody gets in where they fit in, kind of like what you're saying, right? Man,
Yes.
go back. Did I lose it? I think I left this
Oh,
plane.
I'm just leaving it in.
No.
You're
I
going to
think
make me edit that?
No, go ahead, leave it in.
I'm going to
Just leave it in.
I want people to hear
I
like
think I just went into another dimension.
the true Dylan.
And that's what the conversation we were having
Just
there.
derails conversations and you have no idea what he's talking about.
Oh my God. Well, you were blankly staring at me, so I felt like I lost my track.
I'm also really high, I think. When Julie and Lollie connected, it was love at first sight for the pair. At Woodswoman, they were inseparable. When the retreat was over, the women decided to commit to a long-distance relationship. There was a great deal of letter writing, followed up with periodic visits, long weekends together in New England, with lots of camping.
Oh, I used to love camping before I got old.
You did?
Yeah.
It's difficult on your body when you get to a certain age.
Man, and I remember back, camping for, 4, 5, 6, 7 days straight,
Thinking nothing of it.
Yeah, party all night.
Ooh, yeah, no.
Not now.
I like my bed.
Yeah.
And it's just so much work. And I realize it's like you take all this shit to go set up and sleep outside and be uncomfortable and like bugs eat you. And for what? Kids don't even appreciate it. They won't even help you fold up the canopy.
And then you're like, I just want to go home.
Yeah. And then it rains. Yeah. Lollie's friends noticed a big shift in her attitude after Woodswoman. She found confidence now that she had a great love in her life. She was blossoming.
She was blossoming. This girl, I took her on a date and she started blossoming all in my car.
I hope
and
that
it was
you
a mess.
were able to wipe that down. Well, she was blossoming, Dylan, as a student, earning a 4.0 GPA, and those who knew her best said she was really just truly glowing. Yet both women struggled with how to come to terms with their relationship. To the microbrew drinking, fish loving Lollie, she was also not out to her family. As a matter of fact, her family would not know Lollie was a lesbian until the media circus hounded them after her death.
Oh, wow.
Which we'll get into. So in the summer of 1996, before Julie was to begin her new job, she and her girlfriend Lollie made a decision. They were going to move in together in Huntington, Vermont.
So they're in this committed relationship, it seems, but yet neither of them are out to their families, which, again, that's their business. There's no way you have to do this. But that's interesting. Maybe that's where they found common ground in each other and kind of having, grown up like that.
Zoe, Julie's roommate, said Julie was really excited and in a place she wanted to be. She couldn't wait to start that new job and have full-time access to Lollie. Because up until this point, remember, they've been living Vermont and Maine.
Yeah, so they've continued this long-distance relationship for quite a while now, right?
Yeah. Julie and Lollie decided to kick off their journey together with a camping trip. Summer was in full swing, and the couple knew once Julie started working, they would have less free time to get outdoors for adventure together. Now, Julie and Lollie departed on May 19th of 1996, along with a golden retriever named Taj, for a backpacking trip along the Appalachian Trail at Shenandoah National Park in Virginia. Shenandoah is located 75 miles south from the bustling Washington, D.C. area. It is known for the scenic Blue Ridge Mountains, featuring over 200 acres of protected lands that are a wildlife haven.
Wow, that's a large area.
There are cascading waterfalls, fields of wildflowers, and gorgeous wooded hollows. Virginia's first national park, Shenandoah, was dedicated July 3rd of 1936. Skyline Drive, I always want to call it Skyland, but it's Skyline Drive, was 105 miles of scenic overlooks and trails, picnic spots, and campgrounds. There are also 100 miles of the Appalachian Trail that run through this park. So if you ever hike the AT, you'll go through Shenandoah.
Yeah, it sounds like a beautiful area.
It is a beautiful area, Dylan. We should definitely visit sometime.
Yeah, I think we should.
On May 19th, the pair began their trek at White Oak Canyon Trail. A few days later, they emerged from the trail due to heavy rains and in order to renew their camping permit. They hitched a ride with a park ranger in order to take care of the permit issue, and afterwards they were off again, this time hiking Hawksbill, the highest mountain in Shenandoah, before making a camp by the trail. So the pair was last spotted on May 24th. It was on May 31st of 1996 that Thomas Williams, Julie's dad, received a phone call from Julie's roommate who said the women had not yet returned from the camping trip. A bit concerned, but knowing that his daughter was a skilled outdoors woman, Thomas decided to go ahead and contact park rangers.
Well, yeah, they're on the trail. They may decide to go a little further than they had planned originally. You know, you never know.
If you knew that your child was like a skilled outdoors person and very experienced, but they were on this camping trip and didn't make it home, would you be concerned? Or do you think you would be like, I'm going to wait before I panic?
Well, I mean, considering the type of trip they're doing, how long have they been gone?
Like over a week.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not crazy to think they added a day onto their trip, maybe slept over somewhere, 2 nights in a row and kind of just hung out. I mean, so for one day, I think I might not be that worried.
Yeah,
I guess it depends on if they always do things exactly what they said.
Right. I guess I'm afraid of the idea of like a missing person. I mean, that's scary, but to me, a missing person in the wilderness is very scary.
Well,
to know your loved one, it could be missing. Just the potential hazards and harms that come along with being outside.
Well, the fact they could be hurt in an isolated area where there's no one there to help them, right?
Yeah.
That'd be scary.
Rangers searched the area first, finding the women's car north of Skyland Lodge. Soon after, they discovered Taj, Lollie's dog, unleashed, roaming around the area. Dylan, let's go ahead, pause for a moment, take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
And we're back. Heather farted while we were taking that break.
I did?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah.
Yep, it was really juicy.
Awesome. Thanks.
Haha, that joke didn't work, did it? I told her next time we take a break, I'm going to come back and be like, Heather farted.
I don't care.
Seemed way funnier in my head.
Sure, let them think that.
Okay.
With the Memorial Day weekend approaching, there were lots of hikers and tourists in the area. On the evening of June 1st, 1996, rangers found the women's campsite along Bridle Trail, which was part of a horse trail system in the park. Now, at the time, backpack regulations said that camps had to be away from the trails, like requiring them to be out of sight. So that if you were on a trail, they didn't want you to visibly be able to see someone camping.
Okay, well, that's a decent rule, I think.
Like you had to have a certain distance back from the trails. So the campsite itself was about a quarter mile down the trail from Skyline Drive and about half a mile from Skyland Lodge, which was a very popular spot for visitors. Park rangers made this gruesome discovery at the campsite. Lollie was found inside the tent. Her hands had been bound with duct tape. They later would determine the duct tape had first been used on Julie and then second on Lollie. Her ankles were also bound, and she had her throat slit. Julie's body was discovered about 30 to 40 feet away, along with her sleeping bag and sleeping pad, kind of down a small embankment from where Lollie was found.
Oh, you think she was kind of maybe drug over there?
Possibly. Many would say it was unfathomable to think that within a 10-minute hike from the popular location of Skyland Lodge on a busy holiday weekend, that two women could be bound, gagged, and have their throats slit, and then the killer disappears without a trace.
Yeah, they have. I mean, they're not hot on his heels. They've just come upon this campsite, right? Somebody's found this campsite.
Yeah, the Rangers have.
Yeah, I mean, they have. What do they have to go on, really? You know what I mean?
Left behind was a camera belonging to the victims, which gave authorities a glimpse of the days leading up to the murders. The park, this just blows my mind, Dylan. The park waited 36 hours to announce the murders.
Wow, they're winning a firework.
Yeah.
Awesome. Happy 4th of July.
Woo! Merca! Fuck yeah!
Woo!
Woo!
Yeah, God, what they waited 36 hours, almost 2 days.
Yes.
Okay, that's a bit odd, right? And it's so scary to be attacked in a campsite like that, campsite setting, don't you think?
I think so. Well, superintendent of the park, Greg Stiles, said it was an isolated incident, even though other park visitors were potentially at risk. Because we don't know if this is an isolated incident.
You don't know. You don't have the killer in custody. You don't know what their intentions are, why they killed them, or if they intend on killing others. You have no idea. So the smart thing would be to do is evacuate at least the immediate park around there, right? And catch everybody, set up roadblocks, and check everybody going out as you evacuate them out of the area. You're actually in an area that you can lock down very quickly, right? A parkway,
absolutely.
one way in, one way out, not in just like raw country if you don't go those ways. So it's actually a good place to have a manhunt for somebody.
The FBI called the crime random, and it did seem that these were two women who just happened to be wrong place, wrong time. Because there was no real motive for the murders other than murder itself.
And I think that's one of the scariest scenarios.
I mean, we all know how easy it is to disappear in the woods. Accidental falls, wild animal encounters, wrong turns make up most of the issues with missing people in our national parks. But crimes committed on the parkland are complex. First, there are jurisdiction problems. The National Park Service does have an investigative service branch, ISB, that is in charge of handling crimes that happen in the park. Shenandoah has exclusive federal jurisdiction, so with the FBI's help and the Virginia State Police, the crime scene units process the scene. Crimes set outdoors can be very difficult. So, it's good that they have multiple agencies working together.
Well, yeah, it seems that'd be a hard scene to contain and to process, because it's very hard to find small pieces of evidence and stuff like that.
Well, think about this. In 1996 alone, Dylan, 1.57 million, so more than 1.5 million visitors traipsed through the Shenandoah Park.
Oh my gosh.
So in this 1 year that these women were murdered, you had over 1.5 million people in the park.
In a 100-mile area?
Pretty much.
Wow.
Well, it's what, like 200,000 acres?
No, it's 200 acres.
No, it's 200,000 acres.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I thought you said 200.
No, I said 200,000.
Oh, well, that's a lot, but still, all these people tend to be in the same area. You know what I mean? So they're concentrated.
This kind of transient environment allowed the perpetrator to slip through unnoticed. Outdoor crime scenes are much larger to examine because not only do you have that initial scene, but also the outer area, which can show how perhaps the perpetrator came or went when you're trying to figure out the crime. Sometimes the discovery of evidence can be hard for investigators, like a needle in a haystack, because of the vast land. Because imagine a killer could hike another 15 miles and get rid of the weapon.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're actually somewhere where you're likely not going to find these things if they're not right there at the scene or in the parking access to that area or something like that. Beyond that, the likelihood you're going to find something, you could just toss it 20 feet off the road as you're driving down the road
Right.
and someone never ever find it.
And that's why these outdoor scenes are so tricky.
Yeah, because, there's bramble and bush is right up to the edge of the road. I mean, depending on the area.
Well, after discovering the women's bodies, a nationwide search was conducted for the murderer. The investigators followed up on 15,000 leads. For over a year, the case was worked. So, they were working every single angle that they could, but it finally just fizzled and went cold.
Wow, that's a lot of man hours they put on that. 15,000 tips.
Yeah. Wow. Then on July 1st of 1997, a suspect emerged. Skyline Drive is a popular area for bike rides and mountain biking. Yvonne Malbasha, who lived in Canada, was visiting the park with friends. As she pedaled down a mountain road, a motorist forced her off the road with a vehicle.
What the hell?
He climbed out of his truck screaming sexual profanities at her like, "Show me your titties."
Oh my God.
I know, right?
Well, this guy.
Then he tried to force her inside the truck. She fought him by throwing her water bottle at the sky, and then she used her bike to fight him off.
Yeah, it's actually a technique they teach bike cops. To use the bike as kind of a fence between you and the perpetrator?
Yeah, it was a really smart move
Yeah.
on Yvonne's part here. She then took cover behind a tree as he returned to his truck. He then proceeded to try to hit her with the truck multiple times, but was unable to reach her because this tree was blocking her from the truck.
What the hell? This guy's crazy.
Yeah, he eventually gave up and fled the scene. This has to be terrifying for Yvonne.
Well, yeah, but her quick thinking and tenacious spirit, she fought for her life and she won.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
Thank God she followed her instincts, grabbing that bike and just trying to fight him off with it.
Well, I think one of
Throwing
the
the
things
water bottle at
they
him.
suggest is if somebody jumps out on you like that or in a situation, tries to put you in a vehicle to take you to a secondary scene, fight for your life, do everything you can to not leave that scene, because if you do, your odds of living go down to almost nothing.
Right. It's very scary.
Right.
The first motorist to pass Yvonne after this was a park ranger. Thank goodness. She motioned for help. The ranger was able to call in the attack, and a suspect was apprehended as he attempted to depart the park. His name was Daryl David Rice. Now, if that's not a serial killer name, I don't know what is.
DDR.
Daryl David Rice.
Oh, Double D was crazy.
Well, the frightening thing, inside his truck, rangers found arm and leg restraints.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
this guy was definitely up to no good.
no normal person is going to have arm and leg restraints with them, right?
They're not.
Unless that's their thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's my wife's. Has your wife's initials on the inside of them.
Yeah. She takes those everywhere she goes.
I told her to leave him at the house. He's going to get us in trouble.
She says they're like lipstick. She feels naked without it.
Honey, did you get your restraints?
I got them.
Okay.
I got my travel set. Okay. Rice was in his late 20s and a man known for his erratic, hostile behavior. When I tell you about this guy, you're going to be like, WTF. So Rice lived in Columbia, Maryland, where he had been fired recently in 1997, just before this incident, from MCI Systems House, where he worked as some sort of computer guy.
Yeah, I figured this guy might work on computers. Does not say anything against anyone. I just think he's crazy smart.
He had no prior criminal record. His co-workers described a man who was out of control, on the brink of some kind of violent breakdown. Co-workers complained that he yelled sexual obscenities and profanities at them. He punched a hole in a wall at work, and he would purposefully bump into people who'd just poured themselves cups of hot coffee.
What?
So that they would spill the coffee and burn themselves.
Okay.
He also had a history of substance abuse, having been in a treatment program as recently as February 1996.
Man, when people describe you as totally out of control, that's not good. That
Can you
means
imagine working with this guy?
No.
I mean, one, it would be kind of funny because you'd be like, what the fuck? Is this guy like a member of Fight Club or something, right?
But then
Is
it
he
would
Tyler Durden?
get scary.
But then it would be scary because you wouldn't know if this guy's going to come shoot up your workplace
Yeah.
or blow it up with a bomb or something.
Or who knows?
Yeah.
Or make you spill hot coffee on yourself when we're adults.
What a dick. Like, can you imagine someone just running up and bumping you?
Sorry.
What a dickhead, right? Yeah, everything about this guy, I just don't like him. Well, in 1998, Rice pled guilty to attempted kidnapping in the case of Yvonne Malbasha. He was sentenced to 135 months in Petersburg, Virginia's federal prison. Now, in the cold case double murders from the previous year, Rice became a prime suspect. There was the obvious location parallels, and we couple that with his predatory behavior. I mean, again, he selected a female victim in the park, and once the FBI started looking into Rice, they found surveillance tapes, Dylan, from 1996 showing Rice entering the front royal side of the park at 8:05 p.m. on May 25th.
Damn.
He again entered at Rockfish Gap at 4:57 p.m. on May the 26th. Then, on the day the women's bodies were discovered, which was June 1st, he had gone back to the park with friends Robert and Carol Ruckert. Now, when Rice is interviewed, he denies having been to the park at all on the 25th and 26th, even though they have videotape of him in the park.
Well, I mean, that's kind of stupid. You should at least have a story that explains you being there if they have obvious evidence of you being there.
So you're going to admit to the one time, but not the other two times?
Well, once I know there's a camera, or if I realize there's a camera, and that's what oftentimes happens with these suspects. They'll tell a story, and as more evidence is presented to them, their story evolves along to kind of fit or explain away all these other things. But yeah, I mean, how are you going to lie when it's right there? I mean,
well, and if it was a matter of remembering, like, well, I know I went that one day, but I feel like you would know if you went to a park several days in a row, especially if it was a park that you had to drive several hours to access, because where he lives in Columbia, Maryland, I'm going to say is a good 45 minutes or hour kind of outside of D.C., and then this is 75. So you're looking at like a 2.5 hour drive from where this guy lives.
so it's not in his area.
This would be a memorable trip that you would take. And you would remember, like, I drove out to this park nearly 3 hours away 3 times in a week.
Yeah, and
right?
not remember that.
Yeah. So he's full of shit. Well, Rice admitted during his interrogations with FBI that he had only experienced 2 sexual relationships with women, and the last one occurred in 1991.
Okay.
He told investigators he felt sexually inadequate, he couldn't find a girlfriend, and often substituted pornography for a relationship. Rice also told law enforcement that he enjoyed assaulting women and chose them exclusively because he felt women were more weak and vulnerable.
Okay.
Makes me hate this guy.
That's when you should be able to just hit this fucking guy.
No, right?
With him cuffed down to a table.
Rice said he hated homosexuals. He didn't confess to murdering Lollie and Julie, but said the women deserved to die for being gay. Because they were gay.
Okay, well that's a hot take, sir.
Pretty hot take. Rice was described by some who knew him as crazy into porn. Most of the pornography that was seized during the investigation was extremely hardcore stuff, including lots of BDSM. I like how you're just nodding at me like, okay.
So, what's it all stand for? BT, bondage, torture,
Bondage,
sadism,
discipline, sadomasochism.
I
think.
Okay.
Her bondage domination.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
Anywho.
So it's not your average porn, though there's many, many different types.
Well, right. I mean,
It's kind of
some people might be into sort of that light BDSM, like, oh, fuzzy pink handcuffs or 50
making
Shades
her-
of Grey stuff.
They're making her titty purple.
But
They
what-
got it tied up.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like what he was into was like some really
Full-on suspension.
super hardcore stuff.
Hardcore bondage to where it doesn't look... It looks like someone's a victim
Yes.
that's been tied up.
Oh, yeah.
And there's lots of You wonder if they're...
It's like, it looks borderline like
If
this
there's
is a
consent.
sexual assault kind
Yeah,
of thing.
right.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff it sounds like he was really into.
And see, that's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Most people are going to be like, even people who are, like you said, lightly into maybe her hands tied up or, whatever. That stuff gets pretty hardcore pretty quick.
Well,
I've been told.
I'm no psychiatrist and I don't have any kind of degree or anything in this, but I think if you take his interest in pornography and the types of pornography that he's watching and he's really into, and you couple that with the fact that he's not really had much of a sex life in 6-7 years, that's got to warp his sense of sexuality and the way he views women. I would think.
Well, yeah, I didn't think of it like that, but it could slowly...
And I'm not saying
degrade
porn is to blame for this guy. I'm not saying that at all.
It's this guy and the way he's wired
right.
is the issue.
And then having no sexual contact and relying on this pornography as a substitute for a relationship, I think it's really kind of warping his sense of like what sexuality is and what's okay, what's not okay, blurring that line of like, you have to have consent. I mean, he's just trying to like kidnap this woman in the park. I feel like that all has to kind of come together at some point, right?
Well, I definitely think it could be connected, but then obviously we don't know the data point of what he was like when he was having a sexual relationship back in 91. He could have been a damn wide, full-on sadist, whatever person then, for all we know. But I think it's certainly not going to improve his viewpoint of women or what he thinks about women. And I think just over years and years of that, if that's what he did.
If that's like your only encounter, if you will, with females.
Well, and you're also
it's not healthy.
You're mixing this stuff up with your body having orgasms and all those feelings you get from having, whatever happen to your body. That's pretty powerful when you marry image, you really strongly connect something like that to your sexuality. You know what I mean? It almost gives it more power. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Or it could be more twisted. I don't know.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, though Attorney General John Ashcroft mostly had circumstantial evidence against Rice, he announced he was indicting Rice in the murders of Julie Williams and Lollie Winans. Rice was charged with 4 counts of capital murder, 2 of which were because he had allegedly selected his victims based on their sexual orientation. Therefore, Rice was charged with a hate crime. Many LGBTQ community members and organizations had called for the punishment to be considered a hate crime. They really felt that these women were targeted for their gender and their sexuality. And that really does seem to kind of be the case if he's responsible.
Well, yeah. And he's already made statements like, I'm glad they're dead, basically, or I would, they shouldn't be doing that. So it's already weird statements he's making about it.
And I'm not 100% certain, but I know that this legislation for hate crimes was like kind of happening, coinciding with this investigation. And I believe this was going to be the first case to try with hate crime charges as well. But I'm not 100% sure on that.
Right. So the atmosphere is kind of charged for this type of situation to happen. And you got these groups who have already been fighting for this legislation to go through. And so, yeah, they want it to be applied. And I think it quite possibly could be applied in this situation, don't you?
Though years were spent trying to nail Rice for the women's murders, the case was ultimately dropped against him for lack of physical evidence. Now, in 2003, a hair was found at the crime scene. It finally did get tested, but it did not match Rice or the victims.
That could be anybody's hair. Where they're at.
Right. Well, a YSTR test was used to examine hair. It was actually found on Lollie's duct taped wrist. So it was like in the duct tape.
Oh.
But the case soon fell apart. Now, before October of 2003, they had only tested mitochondrial DNA from a cloth ligature that had some evidence left behind. But it produced information about the sex of the assailant, but it didn't offer up any specifics. So, like, the first DNA testing only let them know the assailant was male.
Okay.
But then they get this hair, and it doesn't match anybody, race or the victims.
Well, it could be a second individual, right?
Could be. Could explain that. The murders of Julie and Lollie remain unsolved. Rice was released from prison in 2011, and from what I can find on the internet, he was last spotted living in Durango, Colorado. FBI, along with other investigators, are hoping to one day generate a crucial piece of evidence that will lead to an arrest in this double homicide. Now, at the time of their murders, serial killer Mark Evenitz, whom we covered previously, was operating in this area of Virginia.
Really?
But if you recall, he seemed to prey on like young, like teenage girls.
Right.
But there was a connection to another missing woman named Alicia Showalter Reynolds that they believed Evenitz could have been tied to her case as well. So he's another suspect in this area.
What I feel like was Donald, was that his name?
Who?
The guy they let out of prison in 2000.
Daryl David Rice?
David. Why do I feel like David is just not a nice person?
No.
And he would continue to not be a nice person when he was let out of jail.
Likely.
And there's just some asshole who lives in a, busted ass trailer and barely works and
You think
treats
that's what
everybody
he's
like
doing now?
shit. Yeah.
Well, maybe.
Maybe the trailer down past the junkyard.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he seems like an asshole, and I think they were trying like hell to keep him in jail because they felt like he definitely quite possibly did this.
Well,
right?
yeah, and I think they see that his behavior, he's a threat to society.
And that he is a threat.
He's a threat to women.
The longer we keep him off
The streets,
the
the safer our
yes.
communities will be.
And that's the type of person that prison is for, period.
Yeah. Well, since the 1970s, 10 murders have occurred along the Appalachian Trail. Now, with 3 to 4 million travelers a year, that crime rate is actually pretty low. Even though a lot of people hear that, 10 murders. But when you hear that there's, 4 million visitors, it's like, okay, well, maybe that's not so many.
Well, if you consider the length of the trail and it goes through multiple states and all that, that's actually really low, I guess. But statistically speaking, but it's still scary to think about,
It's frightening.
Yeah.
Well, neither women were sexually assaulted, so that was also ruled out as a motive. So again, it just seems to be a case of opportunity. Like there was a predator who had an opportunity and seized it.
And he just wanted to kill someone.
Yeah, it sounds like this person was just out to murder someone and happened to find these two women.
Man, and that's scary. You could pull that off when they were quite possibly in earshot of other people.
Yeah.
Well,
the women's murders rattled the outdoors community. The case prompted safety precautions and awareness to be ramped up on the trail. Backcountry hikers are encouraged to hike in groups of 2 or more, tell family and friends their itinerary, which is one of the most important details in this case was the fact that Julie's roommate had concerns when she didn't make it back to Vermont on time. So it's very lucky that she had someone to catch it and to report it, but then they could get right on the case rather than just like people not knowing where she was. I mean, those women could have laid out there on that trail for like weeks, possibly.
Yeah.
Which is really scary and sad.
It's very sad.
And of course, you want to be cautious with strangers when you're hiking. So one of the biggest detractors from the story of Lollie and Julie was the media's focus on their sexuality. When the women were first killed, reporters contacted Julie's pastor at the Presbyterian church she attended and inquired about her sexual preference. And the minister, who was a female, also admitted that, she was pretty sure Julie was a homosexual and involved with Lollie in some kind of romantic relationship. Now, the news media ran with this salacious story all about their sexual orientation and all that, instead of focusing on the women themselves. So neither family had been aware of their daughter's sexuality. Being that Julie and Lollie were both incredibly private people, family and friends felt the media's interest was just distasteful.
Well, I mean, who does that? Who calls someone's preacher and asks them about their sex life or what their sexual orientation? I mean, that's disgusting. And they don't do that. I mean, maybe that reporter does that all the time, but I wouldn't imagine they do that about some other couple. And to focus on their sexuality, that has nothing to do with the case or the story at hand.
Well, and I understand the family and friends the way they felt, because these were two women who had lived their lives fairly private, and you're taking this big announcement or this big secret that they hadn't yet felt comfortable making, and you're telling the entire world.
That's wrong.
It is wrong.
Yeah, that's just totally wrong and very unprofessional.
Well, they just took these, very private, secret lives of these two victims and exploited both of them. Well, a story...
That's yellow journalism.
It is. A story like Julie and Lollie shouldn't limit hikers of any gender to tackle the trails, even solo, if that appeals to you. If you're well equipped and informed, prepared, physically capable, and situationally aware, you should be okay at handling risks that may come your way. Of course, safety is personal, and what makes one person feel safe might not work for someone else. The key to being safe on the trails is to always listen to your gut instinct and get outside with confidence.
Ooh, makes me almost want to go hiking.
Does it?
Yeah.
I think that is like one of the biggest pieces of advice to people is listen to your gut feeling.
Yeah, you have those instincts for a reason. Took you a long time to develop those as humans. And you're better safe than sorry. If you do overreact in a situation and kind of get freaked out and maybe it wasn't anything or it was just another hiker over there.
Get out of it alive.
At least I'd rather mistake that way than, if there is a bad situation developing, I keep ignoring signs that maybe this is going to be dangerous.
Well, and we women always feel so obligated to be nice to people. It's like been bred in us to be friendly and smile and whatever. And, we don't have to be. It's okay to not always talk to the stranger.
It's true.
Right?
Just stare at him and don't say anything.
Make challenging eye contact.
Yeah.
Like it's an Old West, Wild West duel.
Keep fidgeting.
Like your Doc Holliday.
Yeah.
There's just like one single bead of sweat that trickles down your brow.
And for some reason, there's like a big hawk or something flies over.
Uh-huh. And you hear like a rattlesnake in the distance. Yeah. Yeah. Like that.
I'm like, I was just trying to say, hey, man, just calm down.
Yeah.
Lady, look.
Exactly.
What's your name? Won't you smile more?
Pew, 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 pew.
Well, that is
It's my smoke wagons, Dylan. Isn't that what they're called?
yeah, skin those smoke wagons.
Smoke wagons.
Go to work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you enjoyed today's story and you want to access more content like this, sign up at patreon.com/Mountain Murders Podcast to access bonus material, ad-free episodes, and become part of our Discord chat. Dylan, if they want to send us an email, where can they reach us?
They can reach us at mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com.
We hope everybody has a great holiday week. If you're here in the U.S. celebrating our Independence Day, although I don't know how free we really are.
You just wait till Amazon becomes self-aware.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
Uh-oh.
Skynet. We're all going to die.
Skynet's going to be a serial killer?
Yeah.
You think so?
No. Yeah.
Okay. Is that
It's a machine.
Is that your conspiracy theory?
Yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot of shit going on. We hope you guys stay safe. Have a happy time. Enjoy your family, your friends, and just, follow the advice that I was given a long time ago to just be happy.
Don't be a fool, wrap your tool.
That too.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.